Driving through the mountains at night always made me feel uneasy. Isolation and vulnerability was always high in my mind, and I usually didn't exhale with full relief until my little car made it down to the flats, which meant I wasn't too far from home. I made this trip at least twice a month, traveling the 200 miles for business, so you'd think I'd be used to it by now. But truth be told, with every passing trip, I knew I was that much closer to possibly never making it home. The mountains, full of old roads, old houses, and old secrets, can find ways to reach out for you when you drive by. Far off in the distance, I could see a pair of headlights in my rearview mirror, disappearing and reappearing with the curves of the old mountain highway, and each time getting a little closer until it was right behind me. I slowed and moved my little car onto the shoulder, and just as I prayed it would, the car moved past me. The driver gave me a vague two-finger wave as he motored by, and soon the taillights dissolved into the night, leaving me alone again with the ghosts of the mountains. Eventually the hills divided, and I made my final descent out of that lonely ridge and through the desolate cornfields that lay at its feet. The night sky, unfiltered by the pollution of the city, seemed to reveal every constellation in such stunning fashion that all thoughts of terror I was so sure would follow me out of those mountains ceased. I pulled my car over and got out to stretch my legs and take a few pictures. It was quiet, so very quiet that night. The sound of my heels digging into the old asphalt as I walked to the front of the car had a cathedral-like echo to it. I leaned my back against the hood of the car and angled my camera upwards and snapped a few photos. I swiveled on the back of my foot to exchange angles and took a few more. I lit a cigarette and tilted my head back, and as I exhaled and gazed back at the night sky, I realized the stars had a way of hypnotizing you, stealing your senses and awareness, and leaving your eyes paralyzed and unable to blink. The stars were in full force that night in keeping my attention, because the sound of the footsteps off in the distance did not make its way to my ears, at least not right away. I finished my cigarette and turned to walk back to the driver's side when I froze. Somewhere behind my car, no more than 100 feet away, I heard the footsteps, striding slowly but with a sharpness that reeked of urgency. It sounded like the loud clumping noise a pair of cowboy boots would make every time the heel was brought down on a patch of pavement. I strained my eyes and peered into the darkness. Coming at me was a tall, lanky, silhouetted figure, its long gaping strides lunging it closer and closer to me. My brain didn't have to tell my body to move. It did that all on its own, leaving my brain the freedom to concentrate on what the hell was coming after me. My body threw me into the car and fired up the engine. I looked in the side view mirror and saw it, now crouching at the rear bumper. Its face might have been blurred into a dense, shadowy thickness, but there was no mistaking the contours of the eyes that were glaring directly at me, and the mouth expansive and toothy. I screamed at myself to stomp the gas, and in that moment I did. The car took a split second for the spinning tires to grab the pavement. I looked back in the side view, and whatever was there was now gone. The car fishtailed as I tore down the highway, picking up even more speed, and I was terrified to look anywhere but straight ahead. I was sure that if I looked in that side view mirror, I'd see this thing running right alongside of me. I tried to tell myself to calm down, but I knew I'd never be calm again after this, and I'd have to learn to live with panic forever. Time passed, and my knuckles, white from gripping the steering wheel, began to loosen a little. I fumbled in my jacket pocket for my cigarettes and lit one. Inhaling deeply, I noticed headlights in the background approaching from behind. I thought little of it, and it caught up to me pretty fast. As the car went by me, the passenger glanced over and smiled. Their gaze shifted as if something in my back seat caught their attention. They looked back at me, and our eyes locked on each other for a split second, and the horror on their face was something I would never forget. The passenger quickly turned and looked at the driver and made a looping motion with his arm. To me, that was sign language for, "Get the hell out of here." They both gave me a final quick look as they sped away, and I yelled back, "What?" They never heard me.